The sound of my mother-in-law's voice drifted up the stairs, sharp and critical as ever. She's up there again, probably crying herself to sleep. How is she going to raise these children properly if she can't even pull herself together? I pressed my palms against my eyes, willing the tears to stop. My name is Natasha, and 3 weeks ago, I lost my husband Taylor to a sudden heart attack. Now, I was losing my home to his mother. "Mom, I can hear you," my daughter Athena called from her room, "and I'm pretty sure Mom can too." The floorboards creaked as Ellie climbed the stairs. "I'm only trying to help, dear. Someone needs to maintain order in this house." I opened my bedroom door before she could reach it. "I've got everything under control, Ellie. The kids are doing their homework, dinner's in the oven, and I've already called the insurance company about Taylor's policy." She stood there in her perfectly pressed blouse, lips pursed. "Darling, you look exhausted. Why don't you let me handle things? I raised Taylor on my own after all." "I appreciate the offer, but—" "Mom!" Nasir's voice rang out from downstairs. "The timer's beeping." I moved to head downstairs, but Ellie blocked my path. "I'll take care of it. You should rest." Before I could protest, she was already halfway down the stairs. I followed her to the kitchen, where my 10-year-old son was standing by the oven. "Grandma, Mom always lets me help set the table," Nasir said, reaching for the plates. "Not tonight, dear. These dishes are too expensive to risk breaking. Go wash up for dinner." I watched my son's face fall. "Ellie, those are our everyday plates. Nasir knows how to—" "Natasha," she cut me off, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes steel cold. "I know you mean well, but children need structure, especially now. Taylor would want them raised properly." My phone buzzed, a text from my best friend Tabitha. "How's it going with the dragon lady?" I typed back quickly. "She's taken over everything. I can barely breathe." "Want me to come over? I'll bring wine." "Not tonight. She's already commented twice about my drinking problem, aka the one glass of wine I had with dinner yesterday." I looked up to find Ellie rearranging my spice rack. "These should be alphabetized," she muttered. "Really, Natasha, how did you ever find anything?" "Taylor never had trouble finding the spices," I said quietly. She froze for a moment, then continued her reorganizing. "Well, Taylor was accommodating. Too accommodating sometimes." The front door opened, and Athena came downstairs, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "Mom, can I go to Sophie's house to study?" Before I could answer, Ellie stepped in. "Absolutely not. It's a school night." "But Mom always lets me study at Sophie's on Wednesdays," Athena protested, looking at me pleadingly. I took a deep breath. "Athena's right, Ellie. Sophie's mother supervises their study sessions, and she's always home by 8. Things are different now," Ellie said firmly. "The children need stability, not gallivanting around the neighborhood." "I'm not gallivanting," Athena's voice cracked. "I'm trying to maintain my grades like Dad would want." The kitchen fell silent. Ellie moved to hug Athena, but my daughter backed away, tears in her eyes. "I hate this. I hate that Dad's gone, and I hate that everything's different." She ran upstairs, her door slamming moments later. Nasir appeared in the doorway, his young face worried. "Is Athena okay?" Ellie sighed dramatically. "See what happens when there's no proper authority? Children need a firm hand, Natasha. Taylor understood that." I gripped the counter, my knuckles white. "Taylor understood a lot of things." What's that supposed to mean? I looked at my mother-in-law, really looked at her. She'd moved into our house the day after the funeral, rearranging furniture, changing routines, criticizing every decision I made, and I'd let her, too numb with grief to fight back. But watching my children's world shrink under her rules, seeing their spirits dim day by day, something inside me was waking up. "Nothing," I said finally. I'm going to check on Athena. As I climbed the stairs, I heard Ellie's voice behind me. This is exactly why I need to be here. That poor woman can't even handle a simple teenage outburst. I paused on the landing, my hand trailing along the wall where Taylor and I had hung our family photos. My fingers brushed against a small nick in the wood, a secret mark Taylor had made years ago, though he never told me why. Something about that tiny imperfection in the perfect walls of Ellie's new domain made me smile. Taylor had his secrets, his quiet acts of rebellion. Maybe it was time I found my own. Absolutely not. Ellie's voice rang through the kitchen the next morning. No child of mine ever needed a cell phone at 13, and neither does Athena. She's not your child, I said, handing Athena her lunch bag. And Taylor and I already agreed she could have one for her birthday next week. Athena stood frozen between us, her eyes darting back and forth like she was watching a tennis match. Plans change, Ellie said, adjusting her pearl necklace. In times of grief, children need fewer distractions, not more. Mom, Athena whispered. Dad promised. The hurt in her voice made my chest tight. Before I could respond, Ellie stepped forward. Your father isn't here anymore, dear. Now, go get your brother. You'll be late for school. As soon as Athena left the kitchen, I turned to Ellie. You can't keep overruling me like this. I'm doing what's best for this family. Someone has to maintain standards. She opened the fridge, grimacing. Really, Natasha, store-bought orange juice? What happened to fresh squeezed? My phone buzzed. Tabitha again. Coffee? You sound like you need rescue. Can't, I texted back. Queen Elizabeth is monitoring my caffeine intake. That's it, Tabitha replied. I'm coming over. 20 minutes later, after the kids had left for school, the doorbell rang. Tabitha burst in before I could even reach it, her red curls wild and her arms full of coffee cups. Morning, Ellie, she called out cheerfully. Hope you don't mind, but Natasha and I have some wedding planning to discuss. Ellie appeared in the doorway, frowning. Wedding planning? My sister's wedding, Tabitha explained smoothly. Natasha's helping with the arrangements. You know how good she is at organizing events. Is she? Ellie's tone dripped with doubt. Well, don't let me interrupt. I need to reorganize the linen closet anyway. Someone's been folding the towels incorrectly. As soon as Ellie disappeared upstairs, Tabitha grabbed my arm and pulled me onto the porch. Okay, spill. How bad is it? She's taken over everything, Tab. The kids' schedules, the meals, even the damn thermostat. Yesterday, she threw out all my scented candles because they were fire hazards. The ones Taylor got you for your anniversary? I nodded, fighting back tears. She says she's helping, but it feels like she's trying to erase me from my own home. So fight back. How? She's Taylor's mother. The kids need her. The kids need their mom, Tabitha said firmly. Their real mom, not Grandma Dictator. A crash from inside made us both jump. We rushed back in to find Nasir standing in the living room, a broken picture frame at his feet. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I was just trying to dust it like Grandma said. It's okay, sweetheart, I started, but Ellie was already there, tutting disapprovingly. This is what happens when children aren't properly supervised, she said, sweeping up the glass. From now on, no touching the family photos. But that's my favorite picture of Dad, Nasir protested. Then you should have been more careful with it, shouldn't you? I watched my son's lower lip tremble, and something inside me snapped. That's enough, Ellie. Nasir, go get ready for soccer practice. I'll fix the frame later. Soccer? Ellie straightened up. Oh, I canceled that. He needs to focus on his studies. You what? I stared at her in disbelief. Taylor coached that team. Nasir loves soccer. Taylor isn't here to coach anymore, is he? Her words hit like a slap. The boy needs structure, not sports. Tabitha stepped forward, her face flushed. You know what? I just remembered, Natasha, you still have that key Taylor gave you, right? The one for his study? I froze. The key. In all the chaos of the past weeks, I'd forgotten about it. What key? Ellie demanded. Nothing, I said quickly. Just something Taylor mentioned before. But I remembered now. The small brass key he'd pressed into my hand that last morning, saying he had something important to show me later. We never got that later. Well, Tabitha said brightly, I should go. Thanks for the wedding planning help, Nat. As she hugged me goodbye, she whispered, Find that key. That night, after everyone was asleep, I stood in my closet, running my fingers along the jewelry box where I'd stored the key. It was still there, small and unremarkable, but suddenly it felt like the most important object in the world. Whatever Taylor had wanted to show me was in his study, the one room Ellie hadn't dared to touch yet. Maybe, just maybe, it held the answers I needed. I clutched the key tightly, my heart pounding. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I would find out what my husband had left behind. The study door creaked as I turned the key, making me wince. It was 2 a.m., and the last thing I needed was Ellie catching me here. The room smelled like Taylor, his cologne, old books, and the leather of his chair. My phone's flashlight revealed the room exactly as he'd left it. His coffee mug still sat on the desk, a faint ring stained into the wood beneath it. I ran my fingers across his desk calendar, stopped forever on the day he died. What did you want me to find? I whispered. The beam of my flashlight caught something unusual, a corner of paper sticking out from behind the large family portrait on the wall. My hands trembled as I lifted the frame. There it was, a manila envelope with my name written in Taylor's familiar scrawl. Mom? I nearly dropped the envelope. Athena stood in the doorway, her phone providing a soft glow. Honey, you should be in bed. I heard the door. She stepped inside, closing it quietly behind her. What are you doing in Dad's study? I held up the envelope. Finding answers, I hope. She settled next to me on the leather couch, and I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter and several documents. Dear Natasha, I read aloud, my voice barely a whisper. If you're reading this, something's happened to me. I've been having chest pains lately, and though I don't want to worry you, I need to make sure you're protected. Athena gripped my arm. I continued reading. Mom will try to take control. She always has. She did it when I was growing up. She tried it when we got married, and she'll definitely try it now. Don't let her. You're stronger than she thinks, stronger than even you know. Dad knew, Athena whispered. He knew what Grandma would do. I shuffled through the other papers, legal documents, bank statements, and photographs. Old ones, showing a younger Ellie with Taylor as a teenager. In every photo, she was directing, positioning, controlling. There's more, I said, turning back to the letter. I've set everything up in your name, the house, the accounts, everything. Mom has no legal right to make decisions for our family. I know she'll claim it's for the best, that she's helping, but don't believe it. She nearly destroyed my first marriage with her interference. I won't let her do the same to you and the kids. Dad was married before? Athena's eyes widened. Briefly in college, I said, remembering. He never talked about it much. The letter continued. I've included proof of everything. Her manipulation, her lies, even the way she drove Sarah away. Use it if you have to. The kids need their mother, their real mother, not someone trying to remake them in her image. You need to show this to Grandma, Athena said firmly. I shook my head. It's not that simple. Why not? Dad wanted you to stand up to her. He said you're stronger than she thinks. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. We both froze. Natasha, Ellie's voice called out. Is someone in Taylor's study? I quickly shoved the envelope under a couch cushion. Just me, Ellie. Couldn't sleep. The door opened. Ellie stood there in her silk robe, frowning. This room should be left as it is, as a memorial. It's disrespectful to— To what? I interrupted, standing up. To remember my husband? To seek comfort in the space where he spent so much time? Mom, Athena added, Dad wouldn't want his study to be a shrine. He'd want us to use it to remember him living, not— Go to bed, Athena, Ellie snapped. This doesn't concern you. Actually, I said, my voice stronger than I'd felt in weeks, it concerns all of us. This is our home, our family. I am the matriarch of this family, Ellie declared. Taylor would expect— Taylor expected me to lead this family, I cut in, and it's time I started doing exactly that. Ellie's face paled. What are you talking about? Go to bed, honey, I told Athena, who squeezed my hand before leaving. Once she was gone, I faced my mother-in-law. Things are going to change, Ellie, starting tomorrow. Is that a threat? No, I said calmly. It's a promise. To my husband, to my children, and to myself. She stared at me for a long moment before turning away. We'll discuss this in the morning, when you're thinking more clearly. After she left, I retrieved the envelope and held it close. Taylor had known what would happen, known what I would need. He'd prepared everything, given me all the tools. Now I just had to be brave enough to use them. I pulled out my phone and texted Tabitha. Found the key to everything. Meeting tomorrow? Her response was immediate. Finally, my place, 10 a.m. Time to take back your life, girl. Looking around Taylor's study one last time, I smiled. The war for our family was about to begin. She did what? Tabitha nearly spilled her coffee as I showed her the documents spread across her kitchen table. Apparently, Ellie drove Taylor's first wife away by convincing everyone the poor woman was unstable. I pointed to an old letter. Sarah wrote this to Taylor years later, explaining everything. And Taylor kept it all this time? Tabitha shook her head in disbelief. He knew his mother better than anyone. I pulled out my phone, showing her a text from Reuben, Taylor's childhood friend. I reached out to Reuben this morning. He's willing to meet with us. The doorbell rang and Reuben entered, his lawyer's briefcase in hand. Ladies, he said, settling into a chair. I've been waiting for this conversation for weeks. You knew about all this? I asked. I watched Ellie destroy Taylor's first marriage. When he met you, he was determined not to let history repeat itself. Reuben pulled out some papers. These are copies of everything Taylor set up legally. The house, accounts, even the kids' trust funds. They're all in your name, Natasha. So Ellie has no actual power here? Tabitha asked. None, Reuben smiled. She's a guest in your home, nothing more. My phone buzzed. Nasir's school. Hello? Mrs. Richardson, this is Principal Morris. Your mother-in-law just called to pull Nasir out of soccer permanently. We needed to confirm this with you. I gripped the phone tighter. She did what? She said it was a family decision. It absolutely was not. Nasir stays on the team. In fact, I'm coming to sign him up for the summer program, too. After hanging up, I turned to my friends. She's already making moves. I need to start pushing back. Start small, Reuben advised. Reclaim your space bit by bit. That afternoon, I drove to the store and bought new scented candles, the same ones Taylor always got me. When I got home, Ellie was reorganizing the kitchen again. What are those? She demanded, eyeing the shopping bag. Candles, for my house. I set them out on the counter deliberately. The kids love the vanilla scent. Reminds them of their dad. I told you those are fire hazards. In my house, I interrupted, we use candles. just like we did when Taylor was alive. Her face reddened. I'm only trying to protect this family. By canceling Nasir's soccer, the sport his father coached? She froze. How did you? I'm his mother, Ellie. The school checks with me, not you. The front door opened, and Athena walked in with Nasir. Mom, Nasir ran to me. Is it true? Can I still play soccer? Of course, baby. I hugged him tight. In fact, you're joining the summer league too. But Grandma made a mistake, I said firmly, meeting Ellie's eyes. She forgot to check with me first. This is ridiculous, Ellie sputtered. Taylor would never. Actually, I pulled out my phone, showing her a video I'd found in Taylor's study, him coaching Nasir's team, both of them laughing. This is exactly what Taylor would want. Ellie stormed upstairs, and I heard her door slam. Athena grinned. Mom, that was awesome. My phone buzzed with a text from Tabitha. How's Operation Take Back going? Just won the first battle, I replied. Soccer stays, candles are back. Queen Elizabeth is not amused. Later that night, while the kids did homework, I found a crumpled paper in the recycling bin, a draft of Taylor's letter that Ellie must have discovered while snooping. My heart raced as I smoothed it out. How much had she read? The sound of her heels on the stairs answered my question. Her face was composed, but her eyes were cold. I always wondered why Taylor changed his will that last year, she said. Now I know. He turned my own son against me. No, Ellie, you did that yourself. I made him successful, gave him structure, guidance. You controlled him, and now you're trying to control his children. She stepped closer. You have no idea what it takes to raise children properly. You're too soft, too permissive, just like Sarah was. The difference is, I stood my ground. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home, my family, and my rules. We'll see about that. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Natasha, I've invited some old family friends over for dinner tomorrow. Do try to have the house presentable. As her footsteps faded, I texted Reuben. She found a draft of the letter. Time to call in reinforcements? His response was immediate. On it. Tell Tabitha to contact Dexter from the community board. Time to show Ellie what real family support looks like. I smiled, lighting one of my new candles. The vanilla scent filled the air, and for the first time in weeks, I felt truly at home. Ellie invited how many people? Tabitha paced my kitchen the next morning, her heels clicking against the tile. 12, I said, checking my phone. All her old country club friends. She's trying to embarrass me in front of the community. Well, she's in for a surprise. Tabitha grinned. Dexter's already called everyone who matters. Trust me, this dinner party won't go how she expects. The doorbell rang. Dexter, the community board president, stood there with his wife, Maria. Natasha, he said warmly, we came early to help. The dinner's not until 6, I started, but Maria was already rolling up her sleeves. Honey, we're not here for Ellie's dinner. We're here for yours. Over the next few hours, people streamed in through the back door. Neighbors, parents from the kids' school, Taylor's old soccer team families. Each brought food, supplies, and most importantly, support. Mom? Nasir appeared in the kitchen. Why is everyone here? Because they care about us, I said, hugging him. Where's your grandmother? Still upstairs, getting ready. She said we need to look perfect for her friends. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Reuben carrying a thick folder. Everything's set, he whispered. Just say the word. At exactly 6, Ellie descended the stairs in her finest dress, stopping short at the sight of dozens of people filling our home. What is this? She demanded. I specifically invited your friends? I gestured to the front door, where her country club associates were arriving. They're welcome too, the more the merrier. This is completely inappropriate. Actually, Dexter stepped forward. This is exactly appropriate. This community supports Natasha and these children. We always have. And who are you two? He's the community board president, Maria cut in. The same board that Taylor worked with to establish the youth soccer program you tried to shut down. Ellie's face reddened. I was only thinking of what's best for who? I asked quietly. For Nasir, who lost both his father and his favorite sport? For Athena, who can't even study with her friends anymore? You don't understand. No, you don't understand. I raised my voice slightly, making sure everyone could hear. This is our home. These are our neighbors, our friends, our support system. Taylor knew that. It's why he chose this community. Taylor chose this community because I suggested it, Ellie snapped. Actually, Reuben stepped forward. Taylor chose it because it was far enough from you to give his family space to breathe. A murmur went through the crowd. Ellie's country club friends shifted uncomfortably. Is that true, Ellie? One of them asked. Did your son really move here to get away from you? Of course not. I only ever wanted what was best. Like you did with Sarah? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Taylor's first wife? The room went silent. Ellie's face turned pale. That was different, she whispered. She wasn't right for him. No, I said firmly. You decided she wasn't right for him. Just like you've decided I'm not right for these kids. I never. Mom? Athena appeared at my side. I found this in the study. She held up a photo album. It's full of pictures of Dad with Sarah. They looked happy. Until suddenly, she's not in any more pictures. Ellie reached for the album, but Athena pulled back. There's writing on the back of some photos, my daughter continued. Sarah wrote about how much she loved Dad, but how she couldn't handle the constant criticism, the manipulation, the control. Enough! Ellie's voice cracked. This is a private family matter. You're right, I agreed. So let's handle it like family. These people? I gestured to the crowd. They're our family too. They've been here for us since Taylor died. Where were your country club friends? One by one, Ellie's invited guests made their excuses and left, leaving her standing alone in a sea of our supporters. This isn't over, she said, but her voice lacked its usual authority. Actually, Reuben stepped forward again. It is. Natasha has legal documentation of everything. The house, the accounts, even Taylor's explicit wishes for his family's future. Would you like me to share those details with everyone? Ellie looked around the room, finally seeing what she was up against. Not just me, but an entire community ready to stand with us. I think, she said stiffly, I need to lie down. As she climbed the stairs, Tabitha squeezed my hand. Round one goes to us. Round one? Maria laughed. Honey, this was a knockout. But watching Ellie's defeated retreat, I knew better. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. She'd regroup, replan, and come back fighting. But this time, I'd be ready. The morning after the dinner party, Ellie was nowhere to be found. Instead, a formal invitation sat on the kitchen counter. Family meeting, 2 p.m., Taylor's old law firm. It's a power play, Reuben said when I called him. She's trying to intimidate you with the setting. Should I be worried? Bring the letter and documents. And Natasha, bring the kids too. It's time they understood everything. At 1:55 p.m., we walked into the law firm's conference room. Ellie sat at the head of the table, flanked by 2 lawyers and her friend Serenity from the country club. The children shouldn't be here, Ellie said immediately. They're exactly where they need to be, I replied, taking the seat opposite her. Reuben sat beside me, placing his briefcase on the table. I've called this meeting, Ellie began, because recent events have made it clear that this family is in crisis. As the matriarch, You're not the matriarch, Athena interrupted. Mom is. Ellie's lawyer cleared his throat. We have concerns about the children's welfare. Mrs. Richardson has documented several instances of questionable parenting decisions. Like what? I demanded. Serenity pulled out a notebook. Allowing unsupervised study sessions, dangerous sports activities, inappropriate social media access. You mean letting me study with Sophie? Athena's voice shook with anger. Or letting Nasir play the sport Dad loved? Your father would want. Don't. Nasir spoke up for the first time. Don't tell us what Dad would want. You didn't even come to his games. Ellie's face hardened. I'm trying to protect you from. From what? I pulled out Taylor's letter. From turning out like their father? The son you tried to control so much he moved across the city to escape you? That letter is a forgery, Ellie snapped. Really? Reuben opened his briefcase. I have the original here, with Taylor's notarized signature, along with some interesting documents about Sarah. The lawyers exchanged glances. Serenity shifted uncomfortably. Who's Sarah? Nasir asked. Your father's first wife, I said gently. The one your grandmother drove away with false accusations and manipulation. That's slander. Ellie stood up. I won't sit here and. Sit down, Mom. A new voice spoke from the doorway. Sarah herself stood there, looking elegant in a business suit. They deserve to know the truth. Ellie fell back into her chair. How dare you come here? I invited her, Reuben said. As Taylor's first wife, she has relevant testimony about your pattern of behavior. Sarah walked to the table. I loved Taylor. We were happy until his mother started spreading rumors about my mental health, my faithfulness, even my ability to have children. You were wrong for him, Ellie insisted. No, Sarah's voice was firm. I was just wrong for you. I wasn't controllable enough, moldable enough. So you destroyed me, but I won't let you destroy this family too. Is that why Dad kept all those pictures? Athena asked Sarah. To remember what Grandma did? Sarah nodded. Taylor never forgave himself for not standing up to her then. That's why he prepared everything for your mom, to make sure history wouldn't repeat itself. Ellie's lawyers were whispering urgently. Finally, one spoke up. Mrs. Richardson, given this new evidence, we recommend. Fire them, Ellie cut in. All of them. This meeting is over. No, I stood up. This meeting is exactly what we needed. The kids needed to see the truth. They needed to understand why their father set things up the way he did. I'm their grandmother. I have rights. You have privileges, Reuben corrected. Privileges that can be revoked. Are you threatening me? No, I said quietly. I'm giving you a choice. Either accept that this is my family to lead or leave. Taylor made his wishes clear. I won't let you do to my children what you did to him. The room fell silent. Nasir reached for my hand under the table. I choose my family, he said firmly. Me too, Athena added. Ellie looked around the room, at her dismissed lawyers, at Sarah's steady gaze, at her grandchildren's determined faces. For the first time, I saw something new in her expression. Fear. You can't just cut me out, she whispered. No one's cutting you out, I said. But things will be different now. My house, my rules, my family. You can be part of that, but only on those terms. She stood slowly, gathering her purse. I need time to think. As she walked out, Sarah touched my arm. You did what I couldn't. You stood up to her. We all did, I said, hugging my children close. Together. Watching Ellie's retreating figure through the glass walls, I felt no triumph, only relief. The truth was finally out, and with it, the power she'd held over us for so long. Now we just had to see what she'd do next. 3 days passed without a word from Ellie. Her bedroom door remained closed, meals untouched outside it. The silence felt like the calm before a storm. She's planning something, Tabitha warned over coffee. Women like Ellie don't just give up. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Dexter. Heads up, Ellie's at the community center with her country club friends. They're calling an emergency board meeting. Now? I grabbed my keys. Watch the kids, Tab. Go, show her what you're made of. I arrived at the community center to find the parking lot full. Inside, Ellie stood at the podium, perfectly composed in her designer suit. And as a concerned grandmother, I must bring attention to the declining standards in our community. Single mothers without proper support systems. You mean widows whose mother-in-laws try to steal their children? I called out, walking down the aisle. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ellie's fingers tightened on the podium. Natasha, this is a closed meeting. About my family? I don't think so. I turned to face the crowd. You all knew Taylor. He coached your kids, helped with community projects, believed in making this place better for everyone. Exactly, Ellie jumped in. And now his legacy is right here. I pulled out my phone, playing a video I'd found in his study. Taylor's face filled the screen, recorded just weeks before his death. Hey, beautiful. His voice filled the room. If you're watching this, I guess those chest pains meant something after all. I need you to know something. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. You gave me the strength to break free from Mom's control, to be my own person. Ellie tried to speak, but Dexter shushed her. The video continued. I've watched you raise our kids with love, not rules, with guidance, not control. You're everything I wished my mother could have been. Tears streamed down my face as Taylor's image smiled. Don't let her do to our family what she did to mine. The house, the accounts, everything's yours, but more importantly, the kids are yours to raise. You're their mother, and you're amazing at it. The video ended. Silence filled the room. Well, Serenity stood up. I think we've heard enough. No, a new voice called out. Sarah walked in, carrying a stack of papers. You haven't heard everything yet. This is ridiculous, Ellie sputtered. She has no right. I have every right. Sarah passed out documents to the board members. These are the complaints filed against Ellie 20 years ago. Harassment, defamation, even stalking. The same patterns she's showing now. Those charges were dropped, Ellie protested. Because Taylor begged me to, Sarah replied. He didn't want to believe his mother could be so cruel, but he learned. That's why he protected his new family from you. Dexter stood up. I move to dismiss this emergency meeting. All in favor? Hands shot up across the room. Ellie's supporters shrank in their seats. Furthermore, Dexter continued, I move to formally recognize Natasha as the head of the Richardson family and their rightful representative on all community matters. More hands raised. Ellie's face turned red. You can't do this, she hissed. I am still a guest in my house, I finished, and not a very good one. The crowd began to disperse. Ellie's friends hurried past her without meeting her eyes. Finally, only Ellie, Sarah, and I remained. You've ruined everything, Ellie whispered. No, Sarah said gently. You did that yourself. 20 years ago with me and now with Natasha. The difference is she's stronger than I was. What happens now? Ellie asked, her voice small. That depends on you. I stepped closer. You can either accept that things have changed and try to be the grandmother our children deserve, or you can leave. But the controlling, the manipulation, it stops now. They're my family too. Then prove it, not by ruling them, but by loving them. Can you do that? She looked between us, the woman she'd driven away and the woman who'd stood her ground. I don't know how, she admitted finally. Then maybe it's time to learn, Sarah suggested, before you lose another family. My phone buzzed, a text from Athena. Is Grandma coming home? I showed Ellie the message. Well, are you ready to try things our way? She wiped her eyes, smearing expensive mascara. I, I need time. Take it, I said. But remember, when you come back, it's to our rules, our family, our way. As she walked out, Sarah squeezed my hand. You did it. You really did it. We did it, I corrected. All of us together. Looking around the empty community center where Taylor had spent so many happy hours, I felt his presence stronger than ever. He'd given me the tools, but I'd found the strength. Now it was time to go home and tell our children that the war was finally over. Mom, Grandma's here. Nasir's voice carried from the front door. I looked up from Taylor's desk, now my desk, in the study to see Ellie standing in the doorway, a small suitcase at her feet. The 30 days are up, she said quietly. I'd like to come home, if the offer still stands. I gestured to the chair across from me. We should talk first. She sat down, her usual perfect posture slightly wilted. I've been seeing a therapist, Dr. Matthews. She's helping me understand patterns I never noticed before. Good, that was our condition. I know. She twisted her wedding ring. She showed me how I've been recreating my own mother's controlling behavior. I didn't want to believe it, but Grandma, Athena appeared behind her. You're just in time. Mom's letting me redecorate my room. Want to help pick colors? Ellie's hand twitched, and I could see her fighting the urge to take control. Instead, she asked, what colors are you considering? Black and purple. I see. Ellie caught my eye, took a deep breath. It's your room, dear. What matters is that you love it. Athena's jaw dropped. Mom, what did you do with the real Grandma? We all laughed, breaking the tension. Why don't you show her your design ideas? I suggested. As they left, I heard Ellie asking questions instead of giving orders. A small change, but significant. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. How's it going? She's trying, I replied. Really trying. The doorbell rang. Tabitha burst in with takeout bags. Family dinner. I brought everyone's favorites, even your weird seaweed snacks, Ellie. You remembered? Ellie looked touched. Course I did. Your family. Difficult, sometimes impossible family, but still family. We gathered around the dinner table. No formal dining room, no strict seating arrangement. Nasir had soccer dirt on his knees. Athena's hair was wild from dance practice, and for once, Ellie didn't comment on either. Before we eat, she said suddenly, I have something for everyone. She pulled out a stack of envelopes. Letters. Dr. Matthews suggested I write down things I should have said long ago. She handed them out, one to each of us, plus one for Sarah and one addressed to Taylor. That last one she placed in the center of the table. You don't have to read them now, she added quickly, or ever if you don't want to, but I needed to write them. Nasir opened his immediately. His eyes widened. Grandma, you're coming to my soccer games? If you want me to. She smiled tentatively. Your father loved coaching you. I should have seen that. Athena read hers next, tears filling her eyes. She got up and hugged Ellie, their first real hug since Taylor died. I opened mine last. Natasha, I owe you the biggest apology. You didn't just lose your husband. You lost your partner, your children's father, your future as you planned it. Instead of helping, I tried to take what little you had left. I was wrong. Taylor chose well when he chose you. You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. The guest room is made up, I said, closing the letter. Same rules as before. Respect boundaries, ask, don't tell, and therapy continues. Agreed. Ellie reached for the letter to Taylor. This one, I'd like to put it in his study, where it belongs. Together, we walked to the study. Photos lined the walls, old ones of Taylor and Sarah, newer ones of our family, recent ones of soccer games and dance recitals. A timeline of love, loss, and healing. He would be proud, Ellie said softly, of all of us. Even you? Especially me, I hope. It's not easy admitting you've been wrong for so long. From downstairs, Tabitha called. Food's getting cold, and Nasir's eyeing the last spring roll. Save me one, I called back. To Ellie, I added, welcome home. For real this time. As we headed downstairs, I caught a glimpse of our reflection in the window. Mother and daughter-in-law, both changed by loss, both healing through love. Not perfect, but family. Taylor's letter sat on his desk, next to the vanilla candle I'd lit earlier. Its flame flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to whisper, "This is what I wanted all along." Not perfect harmony, but real love. Not strict control, but genuine connection. Mom, Athena called. Nasir's telling Grandma about his goal last week, and he's totally exaggerating. Am not, Nasir protested. Are too. Ellie caught my eye and smiled. A real smile, not her usual practiced one. Shall we go referee? No, I said, returning her smile. Let's just go listen. Sometimes that's all family needs to do. Together, we rejoined our beautifully imperfect family, leaving Taylor's study behind but carrying his love with us, always.